This is the Penn GSE podcast, where you'll hear perspectives on education and social science from the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education. I'm Tom Ketchkamethy. Today on the podcast,
your mother's so poor she can't even pay attention.
Dr. Howard Stevenson tells us how mastering the art of trash talking can help prevent violence in youth. Stay tuned. When Howard Stevenson looks at how the world works, he sees a big problem.
The problem is that most people see black boys as somehow inherently aggressive.
Howard is a professor here at Penn GSE who studies the psychological adjustment of children and adolescents. He wanted to find a way of getting young black males with a history of violence to manage their anger, and eventually to change how they're perceived in society. To that end, he started a program called PLAAY.
The acronym is PLAAY, and it stands for Preventing Long-Term Anger and Aggression in Youth.
Over 4.5 years, Howard and a team of colleagues went into a disciplinary school in Philadelphia. They worked with over 200 boys who'd been thrown out of their high schools for acts of aggression. These are boys who had a lot to be angry about. They'd been rejected by their teachers and their peers. Many of them had bad relationships with their families. The idea was to get these boys to rethink their understanding of those rejections and of loss and discrimination.
And there were different ways to try to do this. We had a basketball component where we used basketball as a way to get at the emotions of young people. Basketball in particular is a game of ego, a game of manhood challenges. And for many of these boys, we wanted to witness how they handled stress. And so we were very much wanting to be there with the boys before, during, and after conflicts.
Conflicts came up often. Someone would miss a pass or throw a bullet into the kid's face or call him names. The boys would approach each other, ready to fight. Howard and his staff would intervene.
The lesson we learned is that the boys would often be very scared. You could feel this fear. It was, palpable. You could hear the whimpering in the voice and sweating. Nervous shaking, uncontrollable shaking. And on the outside, the boys would be pushing bravado. I'm going to kick and you better. But as we would push them away from these encounters, you could hear almost within these small voices, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to kick your ass today. I'm scared to death, And the thing is that when adults intervene and the adults are trusted by young people, and not just in basketball encounters, you relieve them of the enormous pressure to be men when they're really boys.
Boys with a full range of emotions, just like anyone else. Boys who are not all anger and aggression all the time. But in order to get other people to see them that way, the boys would need to learn alternative ways to end conflicts other than fighting. That's why Howard hired Sensei Nimer Hassan.
He was a internationally ranked martial artist. He's from Philadelphia. He used to be a part of the gang network here. He understands street culture, and he integrated that in his own style, which was an escapist form of martial arts. So the goal was to teach students how to get out of danger.
The main difference between basketball and martial arts was the boys had never done it before, so they couldn't really challenge each other the way they did on the court. The one person in the room who did know what he was doing was the sensei. One day during practice, a boy put up his hands and told him, "Let's fight."
So the sensei responds by saying, "Excuse me, class, we've had a request for a fight." And he says, "All the class sit down except for you." And he ends up being the first to sit down. The young man, who's the smallest guy in the room, comes up and says, "Look, I will fight you." We call him Marlboro Man number 1, Marlboro Man number 2. The young man wants to know, well, are you going to do that karate stuff? And the sensei says, well, it's a fight. I can do whatever I want. So, and the kid walks away. He says, I'm out. Marlboro Man number 3 comes in and says, well, I'll fight you, but I have conditions. Don't hit me in the face, because he's pretty. He doesn't want anybody. He's got things to do. So while Marlboro Man number 3 is deciding to fight, Marlboro Man number 2 comes back. Now, the reason that's important is because everybody knows he is the best fighter. In the school, he has the best reputation. He doesn't fight because everyone's afraid of him. But he comes back and he says, look, I will fight you, but I just don't want you to kick me. Sensei says, well, I am going to kick you because that's what a fight is. This is not boxing. It's not a sport. So eventually the kid says, look, well, I'll fight you if you want to box. And the sensei immediately then switches into a boxing stance and boxes him all the way backwards to the door.
Howard says that even though the Marlboro men appeared to be acting aggressively, they were really asking the sensei, who are you to us? Can we trust you?
Now, I think this happens in classrooms all over the country, everywhere. And I think some people run from those moments as teachers. And I think with black boys in particular, if you're fearful of them, you really don't engage. You disengage, you run, you turn it into something, I think, not human.
But if you don't run, if you do engage, you have the opportunity to get kids to trust you deeply.
Then in many ways, they're open books for all kinds of other learning. You could drop information about black history. You can drop information about what is racism, what does it mean to be a black male, how do you deal with teachers who don't like you.
Howard and his staff got the boys to open up in group therapy sessions. They had them role-play situations like being racially profiled by a cop, and they taught them a skill you don't usually learn in school.
Trash talking is a skill, too, so we try to teach that.
Trash talk, Howard says, can be a method for stopping a fight in its tracks. It can also be adapted from insults and your mama jokes to persuasive banter, the kind of banter used to make a convincing argument. Howard encouraged the boys to battle with each other over information, and to battle with him and the staff, too.
If you tell adolescents what to think, they naturally resist and rebel. But if you suggest to them and you battle with them, then what they get, they own. They say, I got this through my hard work. So that's my goal, to drop knowledge and to accidentally make them pause.
Howard and his team started working with the boys in the PLAAY program as their basketball and martial arts coaches. But that was just a cover. Really, they were therapists and teachers. By using familiar cultural elements, like sports and trash talk, the team was able to empower the boys and lower their sensitivity of rejection. They got many of them to do things nobody ever expected them to do. Get jobs, graduate high school, join the military, reconnect with their families. Howard got the boys to prove that they could be fully rounded beings, not just people to be feared. And he thinks that if his methods were more widespread in schools, it could impact all of us.
If you could help teachers who are fearful of black boys reduce their fear, you're probably going to have more time in educating them. And you could really get at these disproportionate referrals of first-time offenders of color in a school to jail. So the school-to-jail house pipeline could be incredibly impacted. You might actually have resources of employable men and youth that would be role models, not only for children within families, but other folks. So if you could just stop the incarceration rate of young people and from schools to jails, you could pretty much, change a neighborhood.
Howard Stevenson has edited a book about the experiences that he and his colleagues have had in the PLAAY program. It's called Playing with Anger, Teaching Coping Skills to African American Boys Through Athletics and Culture, published by Prager. Howard recently got a grant from the National Institutes of Health to take his strategies to parents, teaching them how to be emotional coaches. He also plans on training teachers and children on how to manage racial stress in the classroom. The Penn GSE podcast is a production of the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education and is produced by Hilary Frank. Trevor DeClercq wrote our theme music. I'm Tom Ketchkamethy. To learn more about this project and others, go to gse.upenn.edu.